Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending this very nice, special kind of talk seminar in the fall of 2025. And Pranam Maharaj, the Swami Ishatmanandaji, the president of Vedanta Society of VIVEKANANDA Vedanta Society of Chicago, and our two distinguished guest speakers, Sarah and Manjur, Ramana Manjur. So let me introduce both the speakers, and they will be showing the slideshow in the sense that they are ready. Sarah serves as the director of a Center of Christian-Muslim Engagement for Peace and Justice at Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago. Although she grew up in a seemingly monoculture Minnesota town, she is thankful to have had many educational and social experiences to guide and expand her worldview. She received a BA from Augsburg College and an MA from Lutheran Seminary, and served at the Henry Martin Institute in Hyderabad, India. Her work at the center began in 2008, and she's continuously amazed at how the interfaith community in Chicago enhances and challenges her faith, as well as creativity collaborating for peace and justice for all. Sarah became a community ambassador, although her Interfaith Youth Corps, now Interfaith America, and is a qualified administrator for the Intercultural Development Inventory. Sarah, most welcome.
Thank you.
It's good, yes, it's good that she visited Hyderabad and she worked over there. And yesterday, there was a speaker at my university. She gave a talk, and her entire study was also based in Hyderabad. So Hyderabad consecutively. And now, Ramana Manjur serves as the Executive Vice President for Accreditation, Institutional Effectiveness and Development at American Islamic College, where she also coordinates interfaith events and college programs. She holds an MA and Interreligious Studies from Catholic Theological Union and an MAD in Higher Education Administration from Loyola University at Chicago. You most welcome. And now, we can start.
All right. Namaste, salam, greetings of peace. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you and all of you, and with you, Sarah. This is very exciting to be up here to present on the work that we do. We've been doing what I like to call scholarly activism for over a decade, which is really incredible. So as was mentioned, I graduated from a Catholic institution which primarily trains priests, right, in interreligious studies. It was a pilot program in 2007 that was launched to bring people of different faith traditions into the classroom setting, which is unique because we can take classes on world religions and learn from our professor about the different traditions that exist in our world, but to actually sit in the same space and learn about these different traditions together and hear different perspectives, it's a truly different experience. And CTU is part of a consortium, so I also had the opportunity to take classes at the Lutheran School of Theology. I want to mention one of my professors and advisors, Dr. Ghulam Haider Asi. May mercy be on his soul. He passed away not too long ago. He taught at both seminaries, at the Lutheran School of Theology and at CTU. and he was also a founding faculty member at the American Islamic College. So he's quite the connector for our institutions and our work. He was such an inspiration to me in this line of work, as was Dr. Shakila Hassan. Dr. Hassan and I became fast friends through one of her many bridge-building initiatives called the Sounds of Faith. A longtime Chicagoan, she was part of the Chicago Muslim Mosaic, a community leader in her own right and a friend of Dr. Asi's and AIC's. A couple of generations later, and under AIC's current president, Dr. Timothy Giannatti, we established the Hassan Institute for Interfaith Encounter because our encounters with Dr. Hassan, Dr. Asi, with Sarah, and many others were incredibly transformative. And so through encountered learning, we are truly able to have long-lasting, impactful transformation. Could we have the slide, please? The next slide. Thank you. I have been honored to be part of AIC's revival, which started in 2010, and so I've taken on a new role now, focusing on accreditation, but Interfaith remains close to my heart. But I wanted to mention that we have just recently hired to lead the Institute Dr. Humaira Ziad. She has an incredible pastoral spirit. She's committed to dialogue and dedication to the betterment of humanity through music, art, and other experiential tools that will advance the mission and vision of the Hassan Institute. And we are so thrilled for her to join us. And so I look forward to introducing her to you all and to this community, God willing. So a little bit real quick about the Institute. The Hassan Institute serves and enables meaningful, life-changing inter- and interreligious encounters across the city of Chicago and beyond. The scope of the Hassan Institute's vision and activism includes research, teaching support, faculty fellowships, student internships, public lectures and workshops, community outreach, educational trips, public programs, and it's all for the promotion of transformative encounters between diverse believers in faith communities. So, if you are yourself interested in getting involved or learning more, there are 3 ways you can do this. Firstly, you can subscribe to our newsletter. Secondly, you can apply for a fellowship or internship. This is open to the wider public. And third, you can submit a blog. So I hope to see your names there. The last thing I want to mention about our institute is that any encounter cannot go deep if we are not able to bring our full selves to the table. And so all of our various identities that we hold matter for a truly holistic experience and meaningful exchange. Okay, next slide, please.
Now, I get to talk a little bit about our center. So, first of all, as you heard in the introduction, I came from a pretty monocultural kind of background in a small town in Minnesota. Didn't have much exposure to difference, but through lots of different experiences, especially I'll talk about the ones just before I came to Chicago. I was working at Luther Seminary in Minneapolis. I always say I went from Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, to Secunderabad and Hyderabad, the Twin Cities, when I did go to India. So, but in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, I worked with Somali refugees, women who were learning English, older ladies, and then just after I started my work at Luther Seminary in Global Mission Institute, doing work with our international students who taught me so much about the diversity of beliefs and cultures, and ethnic cultures. 9/11 happened, and there was a program at Luther Seminary for Islamic studies, and so churches were saying, we don't know anything about Islam except for all these horrible things that we're hearing on the news, and we need to know a little bit more. So I was in charge of getting speakers to go out to all these congregations and talk about Islam and talk about the relationship between Christianity and Islam, and it was a very big learning experience for me as well, because I didn't know. So then I worked with Dr. Mark Swanson, who is one of the professors he was at Luther Seminary, and then he came to Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago. So yeah, here you see him on the picture. He's the associate director of our center. Mark Swanson was the director of our Islamic Studies program, and he also taught a class going to Egypt. So I went along on that trip, and that was an eye-opening experience for me. Then I was getting ready to maybe make a move and finish my master's program, and wanted to take a couple more classes in an international setting. I was getting very deeply invested, not only in just general cross-cultural, but interfaith work. And so I asked Dr. Swanson, where do you think I should go? He said, India, because you're going to experience so many different religious traditions in a democratic nation. So this is where I ended up doing the next year and a half of my life. And so I did my studies, I finished my master's, and then I worked at an Interfaith Institute in Hyderabad called the Henry Martin Institute. When I came back from that experience, I served 1 year there, I came back and it was 2008, and it was the recession, and I thought, I'm never going to get a job in interfaith work. This is crazy because there's no jobs out there. But Mark Swanson had left to go to Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago the same time I went to India, and they were now looking for someone to serve as a program coordinator at the new center that they had created. So our center started in 2006, and I came in 2008. The center came to be about at the exact same time that a chair in interreligious relations happened for Dr. Mark Swanson. So there was, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about Dr. Ghulam Haider Asi as a very important point person between our two institutions, Lutheran School of Theology and American Islamic College. Dr. Asi and one of our professors had become good friends in about 1990 or so. They started working together, and they helped bring the Parliament of World Religions back to Chicago, and rejuvenated interfaith interaction in many, many ways. And so they were team teaching courses and taking trips together, and we find out all sorts of things at that time. And one of the things that they did also was going into congregations, Lutheran congregations, that wanted to learn more about the relationship between Islam and Christianity. They happened to speak at a congregation that had a couple that was very wealthy and wanted to say, this is important work for our church. We can't just focus only on all the Christian doctrines. We need to know about our communities, and especially in a city environment, and now even nowadays in our rural areas, it's becoming more and more diverse ethnically and religiously. So they started this chair. Dr. Swanson was appointed to that chair, and then the center, where I came to in 2008, almost 17 years ago now. So what else do I need? Oh, yeah, we had always kind of done a lot of Jewish-Christian relations, and our center, although its name is about Christian-Muslim relations, we do all sorts of interfaith things. If it really depends on what the topics that the students are interested in. We do have guest speakers from Buddhist tradition and from Jewish tradition and other traditions that come and teach, sometimes teach again. But yes, we do focus on this. And so our relationship with American Islamic College has just grown and blossomed in amazing ways. And I think, it was Dr. Vogelaar on our side and Dr. Asi on American Islamic College's side ended up becoming really close, similar to the way that Romana and I have become very close. They were professors and they really focused on the academic work, but we focused on the programmatic, extracurricular kinds of things.
The fun stuff.
We're seeing how that changes. Yeah. You want to say anything more about Dr. Asi?
Oh no, this is a great picture. I'm sorry it's a little blurry, but it's Dr. Mark Swanson and Dr. Asi, and then our former president, Dr. Ali at AIC. And so these are the institutions, and it's been a long history. So we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, I think while we're on this slide, I just want to mention that for a long time, interfaith dialogue was the key term, and that was the thing that was happening that was really exciting. But it was among theologians. It wasn't really among people in everyday life, people that wanted to talk big and smart about theology, which was amazing and wonderful, but it didn't really transfer outside of academia. And both of our institutions really saw that needed to change. And I think there was a change in society in general in recognizing the need to balance academic learning and extracurricular kinds of programming. And so our key words in both of our centers, we've got a Center of Christian-Muslim Engagement, and they have the Hassan Institute of Encounter. These are really important words for us. And I think that's shaped a lot of what we've done together. So, we don't want to have those silos. Whereas the professors used to talk and we used to talk separately, now we're doing different things together. And so these interfaith dialogue classes that we have, or interfaith co-taught sessions, are seminars where there's not only professors that from both traditions, but also the students are coming from both traditions, and they're bringing the wealth of their knowledge to those classes in seminars where they're presenting to one another. Or before the pandemic, they would travel to lots of different sites around the city because Chicago is just so vibrant and wonderful for that kind of work. So those classes, the student and the professor interactions, as well as going to various leaders around the Chicago area. You want to say anything else about the courses?
Sure, yeah. So I want to add another E word. Sarah mentioned engagement, encounter, and these are experiential forms of learning, right? And so I do want to stress that piece because there is definitely a place for academic scholarship, and that's wonderful and beautiful. But I was joking that, we get to do the fun stuff because we get to bring in people, we're cultivating the minds in the classroom, and then through a number of activities around the city, we get to also cultivate the hearts and the spirits. And so I think that's really incredible work. But yeah, these pictures here are from a co-taught course, a professor from AIC and a professor from the Lutheran School of Theology coming together and teaching about Christian-Muslim relations and history. And then again, you get a mix of students in the classroom. And so you're not hearing it from one perspective, but you're hearing it from multiple perspectives. And Christianity nor Islam are monolithic, so you're also getting, these varying identities and interpretations expressed in the classroom setting, which makes it all the more rich. So it's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. Not only are people coming with their own unique experiences and perspectives, but different exposure, amounts of exposure that they've had to the interfaith community. So when our students are coming to LSTC, I'm always like, wow, I've got everything from someone who's never met someone from another faith tradition, maybe similar to what I had experienced until I was in seminary, all the way to I have several family members who are from another faith tradition, and I know so much about it. So you never know what that's going to be like, and how do you serve that community with such diverse experiences and amounts of exposure. So we discovered that when you can center around food, that's always a good thing that will draw people together, and they can have conversations with each other at whatever level they feel comfortable. If you give them some starting questions or ideas about do you want to talk about your families and your where you grew up and things like that, or do you want to get into the nitty-gritty of theology and really talk about more difficult topics like the Trinity or something like that? We did a lot of things like joint plays, or that we would find out about a playwright that was doing something that really could teach our students about let's say Ramadan or headscarves or whatever that might be, and then there's also things like music concerts that we would do, Sounds of Faith, which maybe Romana will say a little bit more about. I was really struck by the inspiration that American Islamic College was doing with some movies that they were showing, and they even had a comedy show with people from various faith traditions that did their own stand-up comedy routine. What a great way to bring people together in a safe kind of environment to be able to talk and laugh together. It's been really wonderful. So we do. It was again difficult during the pandemic to do a lot of those in-person things, but we find ways of doing it. We have a Giving Thanks feast at Lutheran School of Theology every year, and mostly it's our international students that are still on campus during that Thanksgiving week. So we take the word Thanksgiving, we turn it upside down, and we say, let's talk about it as giving thanks, and think about it in ways that aren't the traditional U.S. story of pilgrims and Indians, which isn't even remotely close to accurate anyway. So why don't we talk about what we hope for in a giving thanks feast? Being thankful for the food set before us, the harvest, which is a lot of people celebrate different harvest festivals in so many different ways, and let's talk about those ways, and let's talk about different ways that families get together, and instead of it being you have to get together with your family on Thanksgiving, and oh my goodness, who's going to say what, and what kind of conflicts are going to happen. No, it's an opportunity to come together and talk about important things in our lives. So Giving Thanks feasts can be very playful and fun, and as well as kind of deep and like really help us to think more broadly. Iftar meals as well that we've done together have been really meaningful ways of understanding and a different. What ways of fasting and what fasting means in different traditions.
Yeah, you don't have to be on in the same way when there's a plate of food in front of you and good company to enjoy. So it definitely is a different experience when you're sharing a meal together. Could we have the next slide, please? Yeah, so one of the areas that we have collaborated is in service projects. And so this is a much older photo, but I think this was one of the first things we did together, right? Yeah, this was in 2010. And it was a service project. It was a community garden. And so we had folks from all over the city join us to kind of help start this garden and beautify I think this is the AIC campus when we first reopened, and that was a lot of fun. And we've done other community service projects like feeding the homeless, and I think we did a blood drive one year too. And so that is an important aspect of the work that we do. So we talked about the classes and the academic side, and this is community-based service projects. Could we have the next slide, please? So yeah, this is called the Interfaith House. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it, but students from the Lutheran School of Theology and American Islamic College came together to prepare a meal for this shelter, for the folks at this shelter. And so that was a lot of fun. Not only did we have to work together on the recipes and on these different items that we were cooking up, but we also got to sit and enjoy and meet members of the who were staying at the Interfaith House. Sarah, did you want to mention anything more about the service projects?
I think you got it.
Okay, great. If we could have the next slide, please. Okay.
Yeah. So every year we've brought our new students and sometimes some of our older students who didn't get a chance to attend before to go and watch and to observe prayer at a mosque. And usually we've gone to American Islamic College and have lunch together and some discussion, and then be able to ask questions as well as observe the Friday prayers. And we also had a lot of, in the past, youth groups that have come through and said, we'd like to learn about interfaith in the city of Chicago. What can you do? I'm like, let's go to American Islamic College and have a discussion. One of the things that our friend Dr. Asi would do during those times was to take the Al-Fatiha prayer, the first chapter in the Quran, and have us look at the Lord's Prayer in side by side and see how similar they were. And I think that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talk about is, we bring people together around common issues, common values, common concerns in our communities. And maybe you can go to the next slide too, and we'll talk about some of the lectures and conversations and presentations that we've had. But there's a lot that is different that we also need to address, and that we don't want to shy away from those things that are different. We want to face those head on and not just say, let's all just be happy and get along, because the differences are important and distinctive, and what we can learn about our own tradition is so much broader if we're challenged and we have to think about the words we use and how they're understood from another not inside perspective. It's really an important thing. So, for instance, the picture on the upper left-hand corner is a professor from Wheaton College who, she's in the green dress there, and she was asked to leave her school as a professor because she was wearing a hijab to be in solidarity with women who were being oppressed in the Muslim community. And so she was wearing a hijab, and she said something about that we worship the same God. Well, this is a huge topic. Do we worship the same God or not? And that's something that's debated in theological circles all the time. But it cost her job, and we wanted to talk about that wide open. How do you see it? How do the various different perspectives in both of our traditions? So not only is there the diversity within our own tradition that I think is one of the biggest lessons I'm always trying to teach students about, is that Islam is so huge, and when we think about Christianity, I'm often these days embarrassed to call myself a Christian because of some of the things that Christians have done and are saying and doing. The same kind of thing happens in other faith traditions. And so we've had different experiences of that. But also there's a big power balance. Christianity is the dominant cultural perspective, and so how can we as Christians at LSTC lift up the voices of people that don't get heard very often? And so things like we had a chaplaincy workshop in which all these professionals in the medical field and all the way to funeral leaders and bioethics, having Muslim people professionals sharing in that workshop was really a beautiful thing. I guess, maybe I'll let you talk a little bit more about, we won't go to that one yet. You can go back to the lectures, conversations. You want to say a little bit?
Sure. So Sarah and I have worked together for over a decade. As you saw, it was so fun pulling those pictures together and seeing all the years spent journeying together. But a few years into our alliance, we decided, and I don't know why we decided this so late, but let's form a collaborative. And we did that with Kim Schultz over at the Chicago Theological Seminary as well, which meant that all our programming in the academic year was done in collaboration. This just made so much sense. And so pulling together our audiences, time, effort, resources really embodied a shared mission of educational activism and diapraxis. So our friendship and understanding also grew. Knowledge grew about how to do this better through our teamwork. And so when we ran into unforeseen issues or challenges, we rallied to support each other, learn from each other, because we were doing this together, right? And that's what teamwork is all about. And so one of the panels we had, it took actually a year to kind of put together after discussing it over and over again, was around, Israel-Palestine, Jewish-Muslim dialogue, and how do we do it in a time that is just so wrought with pain and trauma, and do dialogue justice. And so it took a year of just kind of talking to each other, being real present to all of those issues, not just pushing out an event to push out an event. And I really appreciated that time and space and understanding. And then a year later, we put a program together called, How Do We Find the Words? And it was really just that. It was, we had a rabbi and our president, Dr. Giannotti, sit together and really just grapple with how do we do dialogue in this time and in this period where there's just so much conflict. And so creating that space to be able to have those conversations is, the example, I think, of why this work is so important and how working together really allows for that to be.
I think before we go into the kind of the more fun stuff again, I wanted to just say a little bit about some of the struggles that we faced within our own communities when we've met with each other and had groups come together. One of the things that is really a struggle for me, I said that sometimes I don't want to admit to being a Christian because of maybe the religious right that I don't feel represents my faith very well. And it is a very broad Christian tradition, and I can't say one way or the other about whether that person that thinks so differently than me is Christian or not, So how do we handle those kinds of things? And one of those difficulties is the church body that is over our we're not a very top-down kind of congregation or church body where congregations make a lot of the decisions. The Evangelical Lutheran Church of America is the name of our overall body that relates to international and interfaith kinds of partnerships. And just that word evangelical, Lutheran Church in America, is really difficult for a lot of us who are from that tradition, because evangelicals are thought of as maybe a little bit more of conservative, or I'm missing the word that I'm looking for. They maybe more of a proselytizing kind of community, which is not at all what I want to represent. And so evangelical can just mean sharing the good news. It doesn't have to mean compulsory, saying you need to convert. And in interfaith circles, that's exactly what we want to avoid. We want to be open to having a safe place where no one feels like they're pressured into believing a different way. So that, just in the name of our church body, I struggle with how to represent what we believe and what we feel, and to have that safe space for us to have conversation. You want to talk about yours?
Sure. Okay. Well, as many of you know, Islam is not a monolith, and we have a very wide spectrum of observance, of piety, of interpretation, of understanding, of practice, and we just we differ amongst ourselves a lot. We need a lot of interfaith dialogue, and so. There was an example of this. We had a group from the Lutheran School of Theology join us for observance of the Juma prayer. And someone who's not a member of our college but was there to give the sermon at the mosque that day, met with the group after and wanted to have a sit down. And unfortunately, he tried to he tried to promote Islam as kind of the only way, and in some ways, just in some of the words that he used and the way he articulated himself, it was, I would say, a little denigrating and not aligned with hospitable values of Islam and or dialogical principles. And so, it was just very kind of uncomfortable to be in that space at that moment. And the group was so patient and so understanding and kind, and we had to debrief about that. Like, this person clearly does not represent the Islam that I have and hold dear to me, and does not necessarily represent the Islamic orientation of my institution, but he is a Muslim, and he, is a member of our community. And so, it maybe is not totally fair to say, well, he's just, and demean him in any way, but to say, yeah, I mean, this is part of our diversity. People like him do think like he does, and it does not necessarily mean that all Muslims think the way he does, and it doesn't mean that all Muslims think the way that I do. And so if we're doing dialogue and we're trying to understand this, we have to be aware that, Muslims come in all different shapes and sizes, metaphorically speaking, when it comes to their faith understanding. And so if we want to do justice to dialogue, and we want to go deeper and understand these differences exist, then we can't hide those situations and circumstances under the rug, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was a really, eye-opening exchange, because Sarah and I talked about that, and we talked about it with the students, and it became like its own kind of case study, which was and I really appreciate that, Sarah, as a collaborator and thinking partner in this work. You exhibited safe space for me to be able to talk through a lot of that. And that's, again, just another example of this teamwork and how working together can really drive this so much deeper. So,
exactly. Yeah. Gotta keep it real.
Yeah, gotta keep it real.
Yeah. Now maybe we can go to the yay. You want to start talking about this too, Ramona?
Okay, yeah, the Interfaith Trolley Tour. We were excited that this was one of the stops earlier this spring. So that was our fourth trolley tour, and yeah, it's just really an incredible way of working with various communities around Chicagoland to have an opportunity for the students and the wider public to be able to visit sites they normally wouldn't feel comfortable maybe to do or wouldn't know that these sites exist. And so together we journey throughout, we pick a particular neighborhood and we learn about the history and the congregation and the architecture, the space, the religion, and it's a really wonderful taste. We could spend so much more time in each of these spaces, but it is sort of a speed dating, looking at all of these different sites and then coming together at the end over a shared meal to discuss, a little bit about what we heard, what we saw. And just another example of how doing this in collaboration is really beneficial. It always comes down to, the calendar. What are the days that we can visit these various sites? Are we being sensitive to these spaces? Is there something that we're not aware of? So we typically hold these tours on Sundays so that we can make sure that our Jewish sisters and brothers can participate. We're not hitting it on a Sabbath or a high holiday, and those kinds of conversations. So it's always better to have consultation with a number of people when coordinating these types of events effectively.
Yeah. There's another slide about the Interfaith Trolley Tour, which is just one of that we've really valued. And like I said, like we were saying, coming here, we were introduced to your space, and that made this program happen, and be able to know a little bit about all the things that your community is doing and learning about in the interfaith world. There's all the practical things about how to get the right foods so that everyone is comfortable, dietary restrictions considered, that kind of thing. But there's those deeper belief and behavior and what kind of stands out for Christians. We talk a lot more about belief and what we think and what we believe and that kind of thing. Whereas I've discovered that practice and the behaviors in the Muslim community is really a vital, important part of how a person shows their piety or their faith. Modesty in dress. We have, can you take pictures? Can you not take pictures? All sorts of things that help us think about all the details and what they mean deeper under the surface. That why is that important, and what's going on there? You can learn the very basics, but in order to really know another person and to get deeply with them, you need those very personal conversations and sometimes deeper theology things.
Yeah.
You go.
So last fall, we had the opportunity to host 20 Indonesian scholars. We won a grant for offering a certificate in interreligious peace building. And so we partnered with the Lutheran School of Theology, CCME, as well, to be able to coordinate programs and activities for the scholars. We took them all over the city, all over Chicagoland, actually, and I had the opportunity to go deeply into the history of Chicago, the various religious traditions that live in our beautiful city. It is so diverse, and Islam being like a majority religion in Indonesia, that they had like a flip kind of experience here in the United States where Muslims are the minority. And so it was a really eye-opening experience, and honestly, it just partnering with CCME just made it all the better, and so that they can see firsthand, again, this collaboration. And if you want to mention something about their time.
Yeah, the 20 Muslim leaders from Indonesia were living on our campus. And so it was so great for our students. We have 3 Christian Indonesian students, and they were given a great role of showing hospitality, and to be able to interpret what's happening on campus, and not only ethnically, or not only religiously, but ethnically as well, both things. So their experience was so deep and rich. To be able to converse with other people from their own country. But like Ramana said, to think about a majority Muslim population in Indonesia and the majority Christian community here in the United States, and to think about how can we be allies, how can we lift up the other communities that maybe are oppressed, or there's all sorts of Islamophobia, there's all sorts of negativity towards Christian folks in Indonesia, in different places. So what is our role in that, and how do we address those things? It was a really fascinating experience to have them both living on our campus and attending some classes on our campus, and doing things like, oh my goodness, they were here for Halloween and explaining Halloween to someone, and when I'm not always sure I understand it myself. Thanksgiving, like I was saying, was another holiday that we had to unpack because there's so much to it. And then, they were here for the election. So that was a really big part of our conversations as well. But yeah, we got together, and as you see, one of our Christian Indonesian students is playing guitar for them as they sang their national anthem for us. And we shared our national anthem, and then we shared other songs and skits and things like that. And it was just a fabulous way to talk about important aspects of how to meet each other on the same playing field, and to also be willing to go deep into what's happening in the world around us, and how are we responding to those things, how our countries deal with our expression of our own faith. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any last words?
Yeah.
Well, we just want to thank you all so very much for having us, and inviting us to share some of our stories and practical experiences of our encounter and engagement. It's been a real pleasure to be with all of you and to be with you, Sarah. And if anyone has any questions, we're happy to take them.
Thank you, Ramana and Sarah, for the wonderful presentation and joint work that you have been doing for last few years, I believe. And the session is now open for questions. If you have any, please feel free to ask the speakers.
Thank you, Ramana and Sarah. Thank you for a wonderful dialogue, I would say, here. My question is about taking your message and your experiences beyond Christianity and Islam. So you have decades of experience in conducting these dialogues, going to places of worship between Islam and Christianity. And these religions have diversities also, right? We're talking about prophet versus oneness of God and Trinity and, Messiah and all those things. But still they're coming from one root, the Abrahamic religion, right? They are coming from one patriarchal figure. If we take this similar message beyond that, say Eastern religions, what would you recommend, or what does your experience taught us? Because then there is a lot more there, right? And there is a lot more challenges, not the geography, history, different, like, beliefs as they, quote unquote belief, I would say, because ultimately, the truth is one, is what Eastern religions, Hinduism believes. But how would you recommend going beyond the two religions and to the Eastern religions also, and not just from academic purposes, from the practical purposes also? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really common for, I think people tend to either lean one way or the other as far as like their introduction to another faith tradition is either they want to meet someone and they want to talk with them and do some of the practical things, and so these arts-based interactions or food-based interactions are really good for that kind of person. Some people really want to learn everything they can before they have any interaction with somebody from another faith tradition. And I think that's true whether it's Abrahamic traditions or not. We've had the experience of going so much more deep in the Abrahamic traditions that we tend to kind of stay in that little comfort zone. But it's been really, really wonderful to like do these trolley tours or to do activities where you have a common purpose service project. You're sharing common values about what's going on, hunger issues or whatever it might be, and to come together under those shared values and then not be afraid to touch on the things that are different and that might cause some tension after you get to know one another a little bit. Do you have other things you want to?
Yeah, I think because our two institutions are educational institutions, this is right up our alley. I mean, knowledge and learning about another faith tradition is kind of centered to just what knowledge and expanding one's education is all about. And then having our two interfaith centers also supports that learning. And so, again, we are really promoting the fact that we need to be open and having these dialogues and having these experiences and these encounters and engaging with difference. We are good with difference. We are fine with difference. We don't all need to be the same, so it's all good. And we want to do this because there's a difference between having differences and having divisions, right? And so we're good with the differences, and we do not want to be divided over the differences. And one way to address that is just through these educational opportunities. So we are very open, to expanding that work beyond just the Abrahamic traditions.
Yeah, I know that we have a lot of resources that really speak to Christian-Muslim relations, Christian-Jewish relations. We don't have as many of those kinds of things, but all it takes is one good relationship with somebody from another faith tradition, and sometimes our professors might have those relationships already happening, or we need to seek them out by things like our trolley tour or things like this experience here. Yeah.
So my question is, it is such a difficult thing to do. How do you inspire yourself on a daily basis? Because it's unconventional. You talk to people. How do you drive yourself on a daily basis? It's such a difficult topic.
Think about it. It's just part, I think, of my nature to want to understand. At the end of the day, we are all humans, and so things like sharing a meal together, the basics, right, are perfect icebreakers, because we all need the same things literally to survive, but also when it comes to matters of the heart. And so I think, getting to know one another often goes beyond the scholarly. The scholarly has a place, and I'm a big proponent of understanding theologies and scriptures and histories, and there's histories around geographies and cultures, and you name it. And it's really important to understand that, so we understand the varying perspectives that exist around us. and changes throughout time. But I also really believe in the experiential component of just the day-to-day getting to know one another. And so what inspires me, Sarah inspires me, you know, the work and her commitment through her Christianity inspires me. And there are plenty of folks that I've had the privilege and honor of getting to know in this journey that do the same, and we kind of keep each other going. So, yeah.
I'm definitely an extrovert, and on that edge of, I need to have the experience and meet somebody, and then I get curious about, you know, their different cultures or religious tradition or whatever aspect of them, that then I start to like do the more educative kinds of things. But so for me, it's you know, getting out and just seeing how I'm a seeker. Also, I think of myself as my faith tradition is kind of the roots that I've been given, and how I think about things theologically, but they're growing, and they're inner both the branches and the roots are growing with others, and starting to see how my own faith tradition can be enhanced, but even just who I am can be enhanced by others. That's what keeps me going.
Vote of thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And thanks for that question.
Please.
It was wonderful when we were hearing two of our sisters, and one from the Christian tradition and the Islam, and they were having the academic way. You know, friends, elephant is having two tusks outside and two inside. And in religion also, all the things that we see, the differences, theology, external task. Elephant never eat with those. They only protect themselves with those external tasks. But they eat through the internal tasks, that is, we don't see them. In every religion, there is also the same thing. That internally, there is a core thing. Externally, there are so many other things. Like when we see that we go to a synagogue, it is different, and their scriptures are different. Then we go to a mosque, it is different, and scriptures different. Same the Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and others. But that is all the external task. But internally, we all go to a God who is caring, who is loving, who is very close to us. And for that, we are all sent. That is the way that Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, he said, as many faiths, so many paths. Paths are different. I like to reach over there in a different way. When we collide, it is the external task. But when we come together, it is the internal. And then we feel it is all same. If we understand these, then all this conflict will go away. The internal, the core thing of religion, if we understand. But the problem is, external things are always so strong and overpowering the internal. So like the elephant tusk, we see only the external one, internal one we don't see. And now suppose in this country, they do not allow the interfaith. What you will do? So that is also, the society should be liberal. Otherwise, in the three big bosses came, all people, they got down, they all took the photography, and people are so happy. Different faiths people, they came, and because the country allowed us. So we have to make in such a way, the interfaith should be in such a way that at least they will be able to influence the ordinary people, majority of the people, to make, now we will follow our faith, my tradition. But at the same time, we will allow others also to survive the same way, and there is nothing wrong. So when we go and talk to them, they're just like us. So this is the way we have to work. Interfaith is this much. And the religion, as we always say, the first is the rituals. And rituals like the schools. The buildings are different, teachers are different, as situations are different. But what they teach, that is morality. In every religion, morality. And 10 Commandments is nothing but morality. The Eightfold Paths of the Buddhist, nothing but morality. So that morality is there. Then comes mythology. Through the stories, they teach us why we should practice morality. Tell the truth, help others. Through the stories, they build that temperament. Then comes philosophy that explains why. Suppose there is no religion. I can earn money, I can survive. Why should I have to follow religion? Why should I have to follow God? So philosophy says, no, these things are there. But ultimately, all these 4 paths, the ritual, and then the morality, then mythology, then philosophy, all the external task of the elephant. But the ultimate it is spirituality. And the spirituality that inner, and spirituality is nothing but love, nothing but love. Love, that is the God. When the Jesus, they were killing him, he was praying for them. Being Hindu, we worship Jesus. Why? Because of that love. So he could love people who were torturing him. So that is the mind. So ultimately that love. So we have to, through your institutions, we are also trying in our humble way, whatever possible, to reach out to the common people. You must select your leaders in such a way that they will understand we must survive together. Whatever may be your politics, maybe your economical policy, we don't bother, let it go outside. But for the religion, we are all brothers and sisters. And that is exactly the word, sisters and brothers. Swami Vivekananda said, and he gave the call to the all over the world, we are together. Thank you very much for coming over here, accepting our invitation. Please come again. And the dialogue means we have to understand what is your God and what is my God. What is the difference? You are calling God as a Jehovah, I call God as a God, or Allah, or Buddha, or Bhagavan, or Vishnu. But same God. Sometimes the children, they will calling their father as Papa, and or Baba, or Pita, or in different language. Same father, same affection, same protection, same caring. Only the name is different. This much only if we understand, no conflict in religion. Political conflict, we cannot stop it. It will be there. Economical challenges, it will be there. Social differences, it will be there. But at least we can solve the core thing that we are same, we love each other because our Father, who in whatever name we call him, is same. Thank you, sisters. Thank you very much. Thank you.